near the Orinoco River in Venezuela. Its two passengers, Gene Benish and Bill Booth, are part of an international team of skydivers who hope to land by parachute on the summit of Autana. So that a cameraman and a sound recordist can also land there, Bill has designed parachutes which carry two people. Gene specializes in cliff jumps or base jumping. For the skydivers, this is a unique challenge, since only a few have ever set foot on the summit that has been isolated for thousands of years by sheer cliffs. And halfway down are huge caves which Bill and Gene hope to reach by rope. But first, they and 10 others must safely land on the top. There's no permanent water on Autana's tiny summit. So to support an expedition of 12 people there, 2 tons of water plus food, camping and climbing equipment is to be dropped under heavy-duty cargo parachutes. The supply drops are critical. If any miss the mountain, they will be lost in dense jungle nearly 1,300 meters, 4,000 feet below. Only if it all lands safely on the summit can the team go ahead with their skydive.
Adrian, Victor, ignition.
The DC-3 staggers into the air fully loaded for the 20-minute flight from Puerto Ayacucho on the Orinoco River due south to Autana. The route follows almost unbroken jungle, inhabited only by a few Indians.
Can we take it more that way? Can we make it, Doug? If anything, Doug, it's going to get pushed that way. Okay.
According to local Amerindian legend, this curious column of sandstone is the stump of a great tree that once bore fruit for the world to harvest. What they will think of the parachutes is anybody's guess. On each pass, there are only a few seconds to jettison the loads. Nothing missed. Among the British, American and Venezuelan team is a high level of parachuting experience. Rocky Evans and Mitch Dakota both are world champions in competition parachuting. Cliff jumpers Phil Smith and Gene Benish. Bob Smith, the director Adrian Warren, Dr. Bob Scott and Doug Fletcher, all British sport jumpers, and Bill Booth, who designs and builds parachute equipment. To land on Autana, perfect accuracy will be required, and they carefully rehearse their jump on the ground.
Ready, set, go!
No, I think better. Okay, now
Lower. Yeah, I have you first. Here.
Solo jumpers will carry delicate equipment in special cargo bags. Cameraman Hugh Maynard, Major Ernesto Garcia, and sound recordist Gordon Forsyth are to be carried by other jumpers as human cargo.
All right, Gordon, being a tandem passenger is very simple. All you have to do is nothing. I'm the pilot, you're the passenger. I'll show you how you'll be hooked up to me. You can get down a little bit. You're hooked to me at 4 points. 2 at the shoulders, which will be safety locked before we jump, and 2 at the hips. So effectively, you and I are one person. Your position will be inert. Your hands Cross your chest, head back, belly forward. I'll stick my arms out and I'll do the flying.
Right.
Simple? Got it? We'll practice the exits from the door of the three.
As the DC-3 flies past Autana, gaining altitude for the jump, one of the caves reveals itself as a tunnel passing right through the mountain, a gallery carved by an ancient underground river. The team makes final adjustments to cameras and harnesses as the time to jump approaches. The plane flies to the correct position for exit. The first two to leap, Bob Smith and Adrian Warren, stand by. From directly overhead, the summit of Autana, now littered with cargo parachutes, seems forbiddingly small. Hugh and Mitch are one of the tandem pairs. The summit projects over 1,300 meters above sea level into the thin tropical air, so parachute landings can be fast and hard. The DC-3 continues to unload its human cargo. Rectangular parachutes inflate with air to form a rigid wing, which glides fast and flat, essential for the accuracy required to land on Autana. The giant tandem canopies perform well. Rocky and Gordon enjoy a soft landing on the weird, isolated world of Autana. But Phil is not so lucky. He misjudged his approach. While others are still touching down, help reaches Phil. He bounced off a rock and injured both ankles.
Can you move your feet? And this one?
Although he's injured and cannot stand up, nothing is actually broken.
Are the others down?
No, they're just
Doug lands softly and safely, but Gene still has a lot of altitude to lose.
Go round again. Go round again.
Stay away from the hill, Gene!
Sure, you can get on the hill.
Right turn! Right turn! Flare! Flare!
She misjudges her approach and, like Phil, lands in the rocks.
Sorry, Adrian.
No, are you okay?
My leg's broken.
Oh, no. Is it?
Take my helmet off.
Trying to get the helmet. Do you get the...
Wait.
Hang on. Okay, I'll do it. You just relax, Jeannie. I'll do it. Just relax. Okay. Relax.
Which leg is it, Dean?
Okay.
Which leg?
I don't know. Jean, you're still connected. Hang on. Splint
Broken
in
your
your
leg.
leg.
Over.
It's definitely broken.
It's bleeding.
Autana, you have one broken leg. Over. Alright, DC3 Autana. Make one orbit. Over. Make one orbit.
Does it hurt?
It's only the pain that hurts. At least if you can feel the pain, you know you're alive.
Good film?
Phil, unable to walk, crawls over to Jean.
I still want to walk with the leg.
Bite on the jumpsuit, Jean. Oh, bite on the jumpsuit. Ow, it's my finger. DC3 Autana, go ahead.
Her lower leg is shattered, and Bob, the expedition doctor, decides to evacuate her. Immediate contact is made by radio to military services, who have a helicopter in the area. Sadly for Jean, the adventure is over.
Oh my, it's quite sweet. And this one? Over your tongue. Right. Put your tongue down and rub your tongue on them, okay? And start tripping now.
Although Phil can't walk, it is decided to let him stay. His injuries are not fundamentally very serious, and his expertise is required later on.
I just stand up.
You gonna stand up?
Yep.
Great, congratulations.
Been through a split here.
Just a big tip.
Gradually, all the equipment from the cargo drops is retrieved, and camp set up on the grassy landing area.
Yeah, let me take over, because we're just baffled. We're just baffled.
The action-packed skydive and Jean's evacuation contrast dramatically with the tranquility of this place, only visited previously by very few people. It's a strange place. Only a few steps away from the camp is vegetation unique to Autana and some of her sister mountains. A thorough exploration of Autana includes the caverns 300 meters below the summit, so Bob and Doug, both mountaineers, begin a search for a route.
Anything else? Try and get down to that rock. Put a sling around this, and I'll lower you down.
The edge of the cliffs is rounded, so it's difficult to judge precisely where the rope descent should begin. They decide that Doug will lower Bob down over the edge for a clearer view. A safety sling supports the rope and Bob as he dangles over the edge of the precipice.
All right? Yeah. That big hole. Got to be in the green area. Okay. Take it away.
All on you now, Doug.
You right? Slowly, please. Keep going. On. You just take it. Yeah, I'll just go past it now. All right, just take it. Yeah. Hang on. Hold it. Lock it up, Doug. Got it. Another 2 feet slowly. You've got about 600 feet sheer here.
This site proves to be unsuitable for the descent, but Bob disturbs some beautiful scarlet macaws from roosting ledges on the cliffs. It's unusual to see them so far above the jungle where they live. Another bird inhabits the stunted forest which clings to the cliff tops. It is not possible to make any positive identification, but it is very similar to the slaty finch, which has only been previously recorded in Venezuela from one other mountain top. The forest itself consists of many plants which have colonized from the jungle below, but they've arrived in a rather unusual way. The cliffs of Autana create an immense thermal updraft which lifts seeds from their parent plants and wafts them up over 1,000 meters to deposit them on the fringe of the summit. This dragonfly lives only on the mountain. But this spider is a common species from the surrounding countryside. Among this strange collection of don't belongs and belongs, often the common feed on the rare. A lizard, clearly related to those common in savanna lands far below, but isolated from them by sheer cliffs, it is a distinct species. Decorating the edge of the cliffs is a splendid white orchid, but one of the most spectacular flowers on Autana is a rare and showy Cunhatia rhodantha. The extreme climate of Autana has molded its fauna and flora. There are cool nights, but hot, dry days. Flash floods, but also long periods of drought. To survive these conditions, many plants have developed thick, waxy leaves to keep moisture loss to a minimum. Even in boggy areas on the summit, the soil is so lacking in nitrogen that the sundew supplements its diet by digesting flesh. This tiny bladderwort is also carnivorous. It's a surprise to discover that the most dominant plant on the summit, a brocchinia, is carnivorous too. Its pale color attracts insects. Collecting water in its leaf axils like many other bromeliads, the fluid becomes acidic to dissolve and digest those luckless victims which fall in. But even stranger, the flower that grows atop this brocchinia is not its own, but that of a parasite. This giant bladderwort, itself carnivorous, is cashing in on the brocchinia's larder by sinking its roots in the nutritious sludge at the base of its host's leaves. The roots themselves have tiny sacs or bladders which can absorb the nutrients released from the decaying insects. The brocchinia increases its chances of catching insects off their guard by having a slippery, waxy surface on its leaves. But that is not the end of the story, for the brocchinia plants often have one further lodger. A tiny crab spider makes a killing by catching insects attracted to its host. Not all insects that land on the plant slip to their doom, and the reactions of the spider may not always be quick enough to catch them, but when it does, it's clearly doing the plant a favor, for when it finishes its meal, the remains are discarded into the sludge below. While others seek a route to the caves, plans have to be made for leaving Autana. Phil, still unable to walk on the ankles he bruised on the parachute jump, is carried to the edge of the cliffs to give his expert opinion on a site for a cliff jump. There are two possible choices for departure: either climb all the way down on ropes, or dive off the cliff edge and use a parachute. Most skydivers might prefer to jump, providing it's safe and overhanging.
Watch that overhang.
Stay low, guys. Is that watch stable? You see straight down.
Can I see straight down?
Yeah.
No, I'm not to the edge.
To assess a possible launching site, rocks are thrown off and timed until they impact.
I still can't see, Phil. It's kind of rounded.
No way to see from here without a rope.
How about if we toss and listen?
If it's far enough, we won't hear anything, that's for sure. Okay. Still can't do anything without a visual test. Go ahead and do it. Rock.
Ready?
Ready.
Five and a half seconds.
You got another rock.
I got one.
You got one? Okay, throw it off again like you did on the last one. Go.
The second rock, thrown a little further out, impacts after 19 seconds. A cliff jumper needs enough free fall time to fly his body away from the cliffs, so he avoids bouncing off the rocks when his parachute opens. But if he free falls too long, he will not have enough height left for his parachute to glide him to a safe landing area away from trees. To be safe, it requires a precise calculation aided by Bill's computer.
Well, how about that here in Savannah, Bill? Okay, line plumb. Okay, I've got this calculated for a 2-to-1 glide angle, which is conservative, 1,000 feet below where we sit, which will enable a base jumper to fall 8 seconds and get a decent distance away from the cliff. And this gives the jumper time to circle the area and land, if I did it right. And I'd say that we can make it based on that. Let me track a little right toward the nicer Savannah, the bigger one. All right, right on the edge of that.
Right on the edge.
Right on the edge. Yep. Let's see. We're short of the really nice one. We can't make it that far.
See, what I'm looking at is, in other words, if you go for this one, then if you
You're
don't
committed.
make it, you're in the jungle. But if you go for here, you've got like 1, 2, 3 areas.
You've got
there
3
that
shots.
you
In
could-
case
yeah.
it's a crosswind, there's probably one way to find out, and that's to do it.
Meanwhile, Major Garcia, our only Venezuelan companion, uses his ingenuity to supply permanent running water from a bog. Using bromeliad leaves telescoped into one another to form an open hose, water is fed in from a V-shaped trench. A Spartan way of life turns into comparative luxury. Autana owes its extraordinary shape to the eroding action of water. Long ago it was just part of a huge massif, which has since been broken up into isolated tablelands. Autana is the most spectacular. Water has eroded a deep gully into the side of the cliffs, and this the team reckons to be the best route down to the caves.
Go carefully with the rocks, Bill, all right?
It is an exercise fraught with danger. Judging from the amount of loose rock and rubble, there are obviously frequent rock falls. Three ropes, each 250 meters long, are firmly anchored to a key rock for abseiling down.
There's an overhang here, we have to watch it, okay?
Bill, though experienced in skydiving, knows very little about climbing, but has a good head for heights. Further down the gully, Bob discovers two frayed ends of rope.
What's the problem, Bob?
The rope's been cut completely in half by a rock.
Rocks hurtle down almost continuously, a constant reminder that Autana is slowly but surely falling apart. Sharp stones sever at first one rope and then later on a second, leaving only one intact for the return journey.
Is it okay now? Yeah, it's okay.
The party discovers that the bottom of the gully ends in a huge forest-covered ledge, leading across a jumble of rocks to the main cave entrance.
Well, Mr. Booth, there it is.
Good.
Hey.
Wow. This is certainly worth the trip. It's much bigger than I ever thought it could be. It is.
The main cave leads through from one side of Autana to the other. From it, smaller side tunnels like catacombs run in every direction.
Okay, well, I'm going to treat you to an English cup of tea. An English cup of tea, Jam? English cup of tea. Cheers, then, Billy.
Here's to Autana.
It's dawn, and time to explore. The scarlet macaws seen from the summit were here, courting in flight and choosing penthouse nest sites with panoramic views on rock ledges close to one of the cave entrances. It's odd to see these jungle canopy birds so far away from home. Also perched on a ledge by another cave entrance is this little flycatcher, characteristic to Autana and its sister mountains. This is one bird that does not have to work very hard for a living. Updrafts of air caused by the sun heating up the cliff face sweep insects up from the forest 1,000 meters below. The flycatcher only has to wait for them to drift past, then sallies forth for an easy snack. Bob and Bill pick their way carefully over the loose rocks to the edge of the precipice. Being skydivers, they would have felt safer wearing their parachutes. Shafts of sunlight gleaming from the cave entrances enable this tree and many smaller plants to grow in the heart of the mountain. Their seeds, like the insects, can only have been deposited in this unlikely place by powerful blasts of air. Some are familiar houseplants, like this Tradescantia. Everywhere is loose rock, crumbling sandstone, evidence of continuing erosion. The cave lizards are closely related to those on the summit, but reveal subtle differences sufficient to set them apart as distinct races.
Oh, must have been a magnificent river to form all this.
I wonder if the patterns caused by a big underground whirlpool.
Just whirling around, or possible the rocks could have just fallen like that.
How high do you think it is?
Well, it must be 30, 35 meters at least.
You mean about 100 feet?
Yeah, that's about it. Look how smooth these walls are. Obviously been done by water. And look at these pebbles. Just polished, like in any river anywhere.
To think we're 3,000
amazing. Tell you what, you head that way, I'll head this way and see if we meet up again.
Down another passage, Bob finds a rock slab with fossilized sandbars, a sure sign that water flowed through here long ago. Autana is honeycombed with tunnels of all sizes. This one finally reaches a dead end, but is curiously inhabited by a tree frog, a familiar forest species. The cave system was dramatic, reflecting a time long ago when a huge volume of water had flowed through the heart of a giant tableland. Little by little, the water chewed away at the rock, leaving Autana today as the last remaining slice of the cake. Bob and Bill are both relieved to be back on the summit. The gully had been a dangerous place, and if anyone had been seriously injured there, it would have been difficult to get them out. After dark, Autana offers yet another mystery to solve, for the air is filled with a cacophony of strange animal calls. Perhaps frogs, but Bob Smith and Bob Scott go out to investigate. The problem is, as soon as they approach with their torches, the calls stop. But at last, they find one. It's a frog called Leptodactylus, whose size belies its loud call. It's similar to a species on the lowlands, but this one is distinct to Autana and its sister mountains. Dawn on the penultimate day. Preparations are afoot to jump to the forest below.
Clean pot. And probably some of them using lots of dishes.
But there's a surprise in store. Suddenly, without radio warning, a helicopter arrives. It flies straight in and lands close to the camp. The expedition is requested to leave the mountain immediately by the Venezuelan authorities. The permits, which had taken a year to obtain, were all valid, but the government had suddenly become anxious over being host to a large team of strangers in this militarily sensitive area. Everyone was obliged to leave without further explanation. Even Major Garcia of the Venezuelan Armed Forces, who had been with the team as an observer from the beginning, could do nothing to reverse the decision. Luckily, the team had achieved everything it set out to do, including the survey of the caves. But the expedition was at an abrupt end. Autana had revealed a few of her mysteries, but remains as one of the most spectacular places on Earth. And except for an area of flattened grass where the camp had been, the sudden departure of its group of visitors left this wild, remote mountaintop pristine once more.